Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something right now that will change your life if you let it. You were not born to seek approval. You were born to lead. Every single day, you're surrounded by noise. People with loud opinions but no skin in the game. People who have never walked in your shoes, never taken your risks, never bled for your dreams, but they have something to say. You've been lied to. Somewhere along the line, maybe it was in school, maybe it was in your family, maybe it was through culture, you were taught that your value is determined by other people, that if enough people like you, follow you, clap for you, then, and only then, you matter. Let me tell you something straight. Self-worth is not a democracy. It's not something people get to vote on. Your value isn't up for public opinion. It isn't defined by likes, comments, compliments, or even criticism. Your value is intrinsic. That means it exists inside of you and no one else has access to it unless you give them permission. But most people do just that. They hand out permission slips like candy. They let other people grade their lives. They say things like, what if they laugh at me? Or what if they don't like it? Or what if I fail and everyone sees? Do you realize how much power you give away every time you care more about what others think than what you believe? Let's break this down in a practical way. Imagine yourself, worth like a bank account. Every time you act in alignment with your values, with your truth, with your goals, you make a deposit. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, take a risk, stay disciplined, keep a promise to yourself, that's another deposit. That's you building equity in your own worth. Now, every time you listen to criticism that doesn't come from someone who actually knows your mission, or every time you shrink yourself to avoid judgment, you're making a withdrawal. And the more withdrawals you make trying to fit into places you were never meant to be, the more bankrupt you become, not in money, but in confidence, identity, and purpose. You don't build self-worth by waiting for permission. You build it by taking ownership, and this isn't just motivational fluff, it's science. In psychology, this is called internal versus external locus of control. People with an internal locus of control believe that they have power over their own lives. They feel responsible, they act from within, and guess what? They're more resilient, more successful, and more fulfilled. On the other hand, people with an external locus of control believe their lives are determined by others, by fate, by luck, by opinions, by fear. And they stay stuck, trapped, quiet, controlled. Which one do you want to be? Because here's what you need to know. You do not need validation to have value. Let me say that again, louder for the part of you still seeking applause. You do not need validation to have value. You were born with worth, you woke up today with worth, and you will go to bed with worth. Whether they see it or not is irrelevant. Whether they applaud it or not is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is whether you believe it and act like it. Because the people who make a difference in this world, the people who win, they don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. They don't post waiting for feedback. They post because they're on fire for their mission. They don't sit around wondering who supports them. They support themselves first. You know who gets paralyzed by opinions? People who don't know who they are. Because when you don't know who you are, you become whatever people tell you. If someone calls you stupid, you believe it. If they call you arrogant, you shrink. If they call you crazy, you stop. But when you know yourself, I mean really know yourself, none of that sticks. Why? Because it doesn't belong to you. You don't see a lion asking for a performance review from a sheep. You don't see it doubting its strength because a squirrel squeaked in disapproval. It doesn't even hear it. It's not tuned to the same frequency, and neither should you be. Your job is not to get people to understand you. Your job is to understand yourself so deeply that no one else's misunderstanding can move you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them criticize you. Let them judge you. You're not here to blend in. You're here to rise, and rising requires that you stop chasing consensus and start building conviction. Because when you finally realize that your self-worth isn't up for debate, you stop negotiating your dreams to make insecure people feel comfortable. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop waiting, shrinking, guessing, and you start building the kind of life that sheep only dream about while they're busy talking. And that's when the game changes. That's when you go from being someone who reacts to someone who leads. You were never meant to follow the crowd. You were meant to rise above it. Act like it. Let me make something crystal clear. The loudest voices are rarely the ones doing the work. Critics, they're everywhere. You know why? Because criticizing is easy. You don't need courage to judge someone else's journey. You don't need discipline to point fingers. You don't need commitment to laugh at someone else's dream. You just need a mouth and fear. That's what most criticism is born from. Fear of taking risks, fear of being seen, fear of trying and failing. So they talk, they tweet, they gossip. They sit in the back row of life and throw opinions like darts, hoping one lands, hoping one sticks, hoping their noise matters. But here's the truth. Critics don't build legacies, creators do. Look around you. The people who changed the world, the ones you admire, study, and quote, they didn't stop to explain themselves to every voice that doubted them. They were too busy building, too busy writing, painting, leading, sweating, failing, trying again. That's the difference between a critic and a creator. One talks, the other does. You want to live a bold life, you want to be great at something, then hear this, you will be criticized. That's part of the price. There is no achievement without judgment, no success without opinion. The moment you step outside the norm, the moment you do something they won't, they're going to have something to say about it. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something they're too scared to try. This is where you separate yourself. This is where the mental muscle gets built, because you have a choice. Do you listen to the people who never tried? Or do you focus on your craft, your mission, your calling? Let's get practical. You're posting your art online, someone mocks it. You launch a business, they say it won't work. You hit the gym, they say you're obsessed. You choose self-respect, they call it arrogance. You say no, they call you difficult. Let them talk. They don't know the hours you've put in. They don't see the 5 a.m. alarms, the late nights, the discipline, the doubt, the inner war you fight every single day to keep going. They don't know the courage it takes to show up in a world that's ready to laugh at your effort. But you do, and that's what counts, because critics will never understand the cost of building something. They've never paid the price. They're not in the arena. They don't carry the weight. They don't bear the responsibility, but you do. That's why your energy is too expensive to spend on critics. You can't build a powerful life while explaining yourself to weak minds. Read that again. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or stop listening to feedback, real feedback, from people who have earned the right to speak into your life. No, that's wisdom. But there's a difference between feedback and noise. And you've got to learn to discern the difference. Feedback says, here's something that can help you grow. Criticism says, here's why you'll never make it. Feedback is rooted in care. Criticism is rooted in fear. So ask yourself, are you surrounding yourself with builders or with bystanders? Because when you're locked in on a mission, when you're putting in the reps and doing the real work, you simply don't have time to engage with every troll, every doubter, every insecure person projecting their fears onto your dreams. You know what you do instead. You build, you evolve, you outgrow. You let your results speak. You let your consistency be the loudest response. Because at the end of the day, a life well lived is the most powerful rebuttal to every critic you'll ever meet. While they're busy talking, you're busy rising. While they're dissecting your every move, you're making new ones. While they're watching from the sidelines, you're on the field taking hits, scoring wins, and playing the long game. This is about power, not ego, not validation. Power, the power to own your path without needing applause, the power to move forward without needing agreement, the power to keep showing up when all they offer is doubt. So the next time someone criticizes you, and they will ask yourself, are they building anything? Have they walked the path I'm walking? Are they even qualified to speak into this? And if the answer is no, let it go. You're not here to please the gallery. You're here to build the masterpiece. Keep creating. Let's get something straight. Your future is too important to be sacrificed at the altar of distraction. The mission you were born to fulfill, the life you're capable of building, it all hinges on one thing: your ability to focus. But here's the problem: most people aren't focused. They're busy, they're scrolling, they're reacting, they're living in a constant state of alert, bouncing from notification to notification, opinion to opinion, noise to noise, and you know what that does. It drains your mental energy. It hijacks your attention, it steals your clarity, it kills your momentum. If you don't have a mission, you will be consumed by the noise, and here's what no one tells you: the noise isn't just distractions like TikTok or Netflix. The real noise, it's internal, it's the self-doubt, the anxiety, the what-ifs, the opinions, the shame, the guilt, the need to please. That's the stuff that takes good people and buries their potential. You've got to wake up and decide, what am I building? Not what are people saying, not how do I look online, not who's watching me, but what am I building? Because when you have a clear mission, when you know where you're going, you don't chase every trend. You don't fight every battle. You don't try to explain yourself to every person who doesn't get it. Why? Because you're too focused on getting it done. Let me give you an example. Picture a lion on the hunt. It's locked in, it sees the target, it's not looking left or right, it doesn't care that the hyenas are laughing. It doesn't stop because birds are chirping or the wind's blowing or the herd is watching. It's focused, and that focus, that's what makes it lethal, that's what makes it effective, that's what makes it king. You want to lead your life like a lion, then you better start acting like one. Stop wasting your mental energy trying to win approval, trying to manage perception, trying to be everything to everyone. Because here's the truth, every second you spend explaining your mission is a second you're not executing it. And if you don't execute, you don't evolve. Focus is a decision. It's not something you find, it's something you choose. And here's what's wild. You already know what you need to do. You already know the work that matters. But the moment it gets hard, the moment it gets quiet, you reach for your phone, you look for a distraction, you check what everyone else is doing. That's noise. Noise makes you reactive. It makes you compare. It makes you question yourself, but your mission, that grounds you. It simplifies things. It gives you clarity and direction. It tells you, hey, this is what matters. Let the rest go. In fact, neuroscience backs this up. When you focus deeply on one thing at a time, what researchers call deep work, your brain enters a state where you learn faster, perform better, and feel more fulfilled. On the flip side, when you constantly multitask or give in to distractions, your brain produces cortisol, the stress hormone. Your performance drops, your confidence drops, and worst of all, you start to confuse motion with progress. Busy is not the same as productive. Movement is not the same as momentum. There's a difference between hustling and building requires that you tune out the noise. That means saying no a lot. Saying no to things that look good but don't align with your purpose. Saying no to people who don't bring clarity. Saying no to shortcuts, no to drama, no to endless scrolling, no to distractions disguised as opportunities. You've got to guard your mind like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. Your mind is where every dream starts, and if your mind is cluttered, if your focus is fractured, your future will be too. So here's what I want you to do today, not tomorrow, today. Write down your mission, not a paragraph, not a cute quote, a clear, bold statement. This is what I'm building, this is what I'm creating, this is who I'm becoming. Then, and this part is crucial, ask yourself every day, is what I'm doing right now getting me closer to that? If the answer is no, it's noise, silence it. Because when you're focused on your mission, the noise doesn't matter. The opinions don't stick, the criticism doesn't cut, the distractions don't tempt. Why? Because you've got something bigger in front of you, and that something, that's your mission, that's your reason. That's your roar. Focus on it like your life depends on it, because it does. You want to know when real growth happens, not when people are clapping, not when you're on stage, not when the spotlight hits you. But when no one's watching, that's when it happens, in the quiet, in the uncomfortable silence of early mornings, late nights, missed calls, passed up invites, and hard choices no one else understands. The world teaches you to crave recognition, applause, validation, likes, retweets, shares. But let me tell you something the algorithms won't. Resilience is not built in the spotlight, it's built in the shadows. You want to be mentally tough. You want to be unshakable. Then stop waiting to be seen and start working when it's just you, your will, and the weight of your decisions. Because every time you choose to keep going when it's not fun, when it's not popular, when it's not convenient, that's resilience being carved into your character. Think about a seed. When it's planted in the dirt, there's no audience. No applause, no recognition, it's buried, alone, under pressure, and yet that's exactly where it begins to grow. That pressure, that isolation, that darkness, it doesn't destroy the seed, it activates it. You are no different. You keep asking for strength, for growth, for success in life keeps giving you silence. Challenges, loneliness, repetition, that's not punishment. That's training. That's how the universe checks to see if you're serious. Because if you can't handle the silence, you'll never survive the spotlight. Let's be real. It's easy to look motivated when people are watching, but it's the unseen reps that determine your destiny. The meals you prep when you'd rather order out, the books you read when everyone else is binge watching, the gym sessions when your body says skip it, the budgeting when your friends are out spending. The early mornings when no one's checking in, that's the grit, that's the grind, and that's where confidence is born not from talking, but from doing when no one's giving you a reason to. Resilience is built by consistently showing up when quitting is the more attractive option. And here's the psychology behind it. Your brain is constantly updating its story about who you are. Every time you say, "I'll do it later," you reinforce the belief that you're someone who quits. Every time you say, "It's too hard," you teach your brain that obstacles are stronger than you. But every time you show up even just a little, you send a powerful message. I'm someone who follows through. I'm someone who doesn't back down. That story, it rewires your confidence. It's not a switch you flip, it's a muscle you train. And it's trained in silence. You've got to stop looking for applause and start building endurance. Stop seeking validation and start embracing isolation. Because sometimes silence isn't a sign of failure, it's a space being made for transformation. No one claps for the person who chooses discipline over comfort. No one congratulates you for sitting with your fear instead of avoiding it. No one cheers when you're waking up early, grinding while your world sleeps. But guess what? The future you're building will. The life you want, the version of you who has it all together, is waiting on the other side of your ability to endure silence now. Not just endure it, own it. Make the silence your training ground. Make it sacred. That's where lions sharpen their claws. That's where champions are born. That's where you learn what you're truly made of. Because when the noise is gone, when there's no applause, no feedback, no attention, the only thing left is you and your decision. Do you quit or do you continue? Do you take the easy out or do you lean in? That moment right there, that's what resilience feels like. It's raw, it's lonely, it's powerful. If you can keep going when it's quiet, you'll be unstoppable when it's loud. And let me just say this, the people you look up to, the leaders, the icons, the visionaries, they weren't made in front of cameras. They were made in their own moments of silence, failure, frustration, and doubt. And instead of breaking, they built something inside that couldn't be shaken. Now it's your turn. The world doesn't need another person chasing attention. It needs someone who's solid, grounded, quietly dangerous. Someone who puts in the reps when it's boring. Someone who grows strong in the dark. Someone who's ready to roar not for attention, but because they've earned it. So the next time you feel alone, unnoticed, unappreciated, good. That's the zone. That's the place where your future is forged. Be grateful for the silence, because it means you're being prepared for something louder than applause, legacy. You weren't born to fit in. You were born to lead. You were born to carve your own path, not walk down the ones others paved for you. But leadership isn't about having followers, likes, or a platform. It's not about being loud or popular. Real leadership starts when you decide to stop waiting for permission and start taking responsibility. You know what most people do. They wait. They wait for a sign. They wait for support. They wait for everything to feel ready. And in that waiting, they fall into the trap of following. They follow trends, they follow opinions, they follow comfort, they follow the crowd, but here's the truth. The crowd is usually wrong. The crowd settles. The crowd plays it safe. The crowd spends more time watching other people live than building their own lives. If you follow the crowd, you'll end up lost because they're not going anywhere worth following. Leadership means stepping forward first, even when no one else moves. It means being willing to look weird, be misunderstood, and take hits. It's not about being fearless, it's about being willing. Willing to act without approval, willing to fail in public, willing to do what's right, not what's easy, willing to trust your gut when everyone else is doubting you. That's leadership, and guess what? You don't need a title to lead, you don't need followers, you don't need a stage, you need courage, you need conviction, you need clarity. When you decide to lead your life like it matters, when you take full ownership of your time, energy, and purpose, you instantly separate yourself from 99% of people. Most people don't lead because leading is uncomfortable. You can't hide when you lead, you can't blame, you can't pretend, you have to make decisions, you have to act with intention, and yes, you will be judged, but you'll also grow, you'll build confidence. You'll earn self-respect because you're not following a script, you're writing your own. Let's break this down practically. When you lead, you stop saying, "I'll see what they're doing first." You start saying, "Here's what I believe is right." When you lead, you stop waiting to be chosen. You choose yourself. When you lead, you stop asking for opinions. You start trusting your instincts, backed by preparation. Leadership isn't glamorous, it's gritty. It's being the first one in and the last one out. It's carrying the weight of your own decisions. It's looking in the mirror and saying, "No one's coming, I'm the one who has to move." That's when your life changes, and this is important. Leadership isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself, your mind, your habits, your reactions. When you learn to lead yourself, that's when others naturally begin to follow, because people don't follow words, they follow example. You want your family to be stronger, lead with discipline. You want your friends to elevate, lead with integrity. You want your team to grow, lead with consistency. You want respect, lead with action. The people around you don't need another talker. They need someone who's walking the walk, someone who moves. Now here's the mental switch you've got to make. Stop thinking about how you're perceived and start thinking about what you're modeling. Because the world's not changed by those who fit in, it's changed by those who lead from the front even when it's lonely, and it will be lonely at times. That's the cost, that's the test. Leadership demands sacrifice. You'll lose some people, you'll outgrow some environments, you'll disappoint those who want you to stay the same, but you know what you gain: freedom, power, clarity, a future you designed, not one you inherited. And neuroscience backs this up. Leadership activates the part of your brain responsible for future planning, decision making, and self-regulation. When you take the lead in your own life, your confidence increases, your stress decreases, and your emotional resilience grows. Why? Because you're not reactive, you're intentional. You're not drifting, you're driving. You become the kind of person who doesn't chase influence. You create impact. So the next time you're tempted to blend in, to stay quiet, to follow the crowd, remember who you are. You are not average. You are not here to obey the status quo. You are here to build, lead, and leave a mark. Stop waiting for someone to hand you a role. Step into it, own it, live it. Lead not for the applause. Lead not for the credit. Lead because it's what you were born to do. And when you lead from the front with purpose and integrity, the opinions behind you stop mattering. You won't need to roar to prove yourself. Your presence will speak loud enough. So move first, think independently, take the hits and keep going, because lions don't follow, they lead. Let's bring it all home. You've just been reminded of something your soul has always known, that you were never meant to walk among the sheep. You were never built for silence, submission, or smallness. You were built to lead, to rise, to roar, not for attention, but for impact. And yes, this world is noisy. Yes, critics are loud. Yes, the pressure to fit in is real. But so is your power, and your power doesn't come from being liked. It doesn't come from being approved, applauded, or accepted. It comes from the decisions you make when no one's watching. It comes from the standards you set, the mission you chase, the discipline you uphold, and the roar you refuse to silence. You're not here to seek validation. You're here to create transformation. You're not here to follow the crowd. You're here to move with conviction. You're not here to be safe. You're here to be seen as you really are, powerful, capable, and unwilling to shrink. So what's next? You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending your dreams. You stop waiting. You start building. You trust yourself. You lead yourself. You show up even in silence. You embrace the grind not because it's easy, but because you're capable. Because lions don't ask for directions from sheep. They trust their instincts. Lions don't seek applause from the herd. They walk in authority. Lions don't respond to every bark. They know who they are, and so do you. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them watch. You're not here to be liked. You're here to lead. Now get out there and roar like you were born to. A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of sheep, and neither should you.